Why does Bach use primary tonal progressions at the beginning of his compositions? Because he needs to give us the tonality at the beginning of his compositions. That's the most simple answer for that question. And in this video, I will explain the primary tonal progression and the relationship between primary tonal progression and 2-5-1. And also this explanation is valid for classical music and also jazz music. For most of the jazz standards, when we analyze the jazz standards, we use a lot of brackets that symbolizes 2-5-1 progression. I will explain the source of that chord progression, and also I will explain the chord scale relationship. Let's start with the primary dominant and tonic relationship, and then we'll expand our vocabulary. When we have the C major tonality, the first chord C major 7, and in our previous video we talked about the relationship between the primary dominant 5-7 and tonic. This is 1 major 7, and the relationship is the tension resolution pattern. We use arrow for tension resolution pattern for the dominant to tonic, and as you remembered, we also use the arrow for the secondary dominant and tension resolution patterns. Our next progression in terms of structural relationship is the 2 minor 7. Why? Because we use the same principle structural. This principle is a structural progression based on fourths and fifths, and we start from C major 7. Our first fifth relationship is 5 dominant 7, and the next one, when we move in the same direction based on fourths and fifths, we have D minor 7, 2 minor 7, 5 dominant 7, and 1 major 7. This is primary tonal progression. That's why Bach is using primary tonal progression at the beginning of his compositions. Why? Because he was trying to give the color of main tonality. Let's remember one of the most famous Bach's compositions. This is Prelude in C major. The first chord, C major, then D minor, then G dominant, then okay, this is typical 2-5-1. And also you can see the examples of this progression in most of the jazz standards. Okay, but if we apply this relationship to other diatonic chords, we have full set of 2-5-1 relationships on the base of different diatonic chord degrees, and whole section we call this related to minor. Okay, let's see how it works. After the first primary tonal progression, this is primary tonal progression, and we apply the same relationship to different chord degrees. We have 2 minor 7, and let's see what we have here. A dominant 7, this is secondary dominant, right? And the tension resolution pattern, and we got E minor 7 on the basis of this 2-5-1 relationship. And E minor 7 is a diatonic chord, right? That's why we need to use Roman numerals to clarify its diatonic relationship. This is 3 minor 7. Then we have E minor 7 here. This is 3 minor, then B dominant 7, 5-7 of 3. This is secondary dominant, and here we have F sharp minor 7. For F sharp minor 7, this is the first non-diatonic chord on the basis of related 2 minor chords. We don't need to use any Roman numeral because this is non-diatonic, but the only relationship F sharp has is that 2-5-1 relationship. That's why it has the very strong connection with the B dominant 7 on the basis of fourths and fifths, and then the tension resolution to A minor 7. The next one is F major 7. This is 4 major 7, and C dominant 7, 5-7 of 4. This is related to minor 7, G minor 7. Again, the same thing happened for G minor 7 because it is non-diatonic chord. And the G dominant 7, 5 dominant 7, and D dominant 7, secondary dominant of 5 dominant 7. And we have A minor 7. A minor 7 is a diatonic chord. That's why we need to write 6 minor 7 for A minor 7. Okay, then the last one, A minor 7, 6 minor 7, our secondary dominant chord, 5-7 of 6, then the resolution here, and B minor 7. Again, B minor 7 is non-diatonic chord, and that's why we don't need to use the Roman numerals. And the bracket, the functions to give us the relationship based on the 2-5-1 chord chord progression. And the whole section is called related 2 minor 7. Okay, and this is after secondary dominant. This is our next expansion of harmonic vocabulary. And for the chord scale relationship, you remember from our first video, a 2 minor, we use the Dorian chord scale for 2 minor 7, right? And you can use for the rest of the related 2 minors. I mean, it works perfectly, no problem about it. But of course, I mean, you can have the question, okay, we have at the same time minor 7 flat 5 colors for this related to minor 7. Yes, in terms of structural relationship, there is nothing changed. That's why you can use minor 7 flat 5 for your related to minor 7. Oh, but don't forget to adjust according to functional relationship. For example, let's change our last chord, B minor 7. Let's change it B minor 7 flat 5. When we have the B minor 7 flat 5, that is diatonic. That's a diatonic chord. That's why we need to use 7 minor 7 flat 5. Let's talk about chord scales for this adjustment. As I said before, for the minor 7, 2 minor 7, Dorian works perfectly. For the minor 7 flat 5, you can use the Locrian. And also the source for the Locrian again comes from diatonic chord and the 7 minor 7 flat 5. That's why when you have the 7 minor 7 flat 5 here, you can use Locrian. Let's see how Bach used this chord progression in C major prelude. And at the beginning, I just play the first few bars just to show the 2-5-1. But let's see how the expansion happens in Bach's composition. The first chord, C major. Then the next one, D minor. Then the G dominant and yes. Then after that chord, expansion starts to move on A minor. Then D dominant 7. Yes, this is the related 2-5-1 relationship and the resolution. Then this is the G dominant. As you see from that example, if you have structural connection, structural relationship, structural explanation about the chord progression, then you start to see the unity of the piece. And we can say that, okay, this is one piece. Otherwise, you will have problem about the dispersed and fragmented view about the composition. When in that situation, it's really hard to absorb the sound, digest the sound. And also, in terms of felt perception, you cannot design your relationship with the composition. That's the most important thing. As you observe from this explanation, after having clear explanation about the relationship, then I can focus on my felt perception and I can observe my feeling about the compositions, and then my analysis would be more authentic. And this is most important side of the theory. If you cannot construct a relationship between thinking and listening, then your analysis will be empty vehicle. And see you in the next video, and take care of yourselves.